This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about if you're a smart investor and doing a really good job as a DIY portfolio builder for yourself, do you actually need an advisor? So let's get into it here on The Roth Guy.
Flying high above the metropolis, it's The Roth Guy with holistic wealth advisor Jude Wilson.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with Jude and I as we talk investing, finance, and retirement. And Jude, my friend, interesting conversation this week. You had a client prospect earlier this month. I'll just call it this month.
Yep.
And the person was kind of challenging you a little bit on, hey, do I really need a financial advisor? And we get email questions into the show, and you guys get them into the website. And it's a valid question. It's a good question, and it's one you should certainly ask when you go in to talk with somebody. So I want to break that down a little bit this week and kind of maybe highlight why, even if you're doing a great job as a DIY investor for yourself, why you still might need an advisor. So let's talk about it. How you doing?
I am doing excellent. I feel good. I'm well rested.
Nice.
And I worked out this morning, so I'm on top of my game.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, then let's test it out. So let's talk a little bit about that scenario, right? So somebody came in, They were talking with you about using your services, and they kind of challenged you a little bit on, do I really need an advisor? What do you bring to the table? And I kind of paired that up when you mentioned that to me with an email that we had seen a couple of weeks ago. And it's basically just saying, hey, look, I'm a smart person. I've got an MBA. I've invested well. I'm doing pretty good, right? Do I really need to spend the money on an advisor? And it's like, well, that's just kind of one component, though, right, of the portfolio building. And so the last number of years, Jude, it's pretty easy. The technology, the different kind of resources we have out there. If you're a decent saver, and you pick you're in the S&P, the market's done well. I mean, it's not hard to grow the money, right?
Right.
The question becomes is how do you preserve it and make a paycheck when you no longer have a paycheck? That's the challenge.
Absolutely. I think for our listeners, one of the things that we can include in the show notes, we have a diagram called the financial planning pyramid. Okay. It basically shows all of the areas that you should be considering when you're building your entire financial life. And just like any pyramid, there's the base of the pyramid which holds everything up. But for today's discussion, I really want our listeners to understand that this is a valid question.
Sure.
And you should feel very confident if you're going to choose a financial advisor that you're going to get value out of that relationship. And I think one of the two reasons why this question comes up so often is even though I love my industry, just like any industries, there's some places that we could do better. And one of the models that is often used by financial advisor is what's called an AUM model, assets under management. And so typically a financial advisor may charge somewhere between 1 to almost 2% to manage assets. And usually in that relationship, you're getting also some financial advice. But what I see and what causes frustration in this question a lot of times is people either one say, well, heck, I'm doing a great job. Look at what I've done over the last 8 years. True. Particularly in this environment, it's been easier than some because we've been in a very aggressive stock market. And then secondly, what I see is some people say, well, I want to manage my own assets outside of getting advice from you. Is that possible? And because of the way the industry is structured, a lot of advisors aren't able to offer that. So let's address the investment question that was written in. And guy's an MBA. He's been doing well in his portfolio. And he says, well, why do I need to pay somebody 1% for investment advice? Well, if the only thing you're getting is investment advice, then I would probably agree with you if you believe that you've done a good job and you have the knowledge, the time, and the capability of doing that. Now, there's a lot of areas that he's not considering, maybe taxation on that portfolio. How's that portfolio level of risk with his time frame? But all the other areas of financial planning, risk management, insurance, estate planning, all of those areas should be combined in a holistic plan.
Yeah. Well, and, thinking about that, when you were kind of bringing that up there, you're doing a great job, and the term advisor, I think, is what popped out at me, right? So it's like, I'm doing a great job. Do I need an advisor? Well, sounds like a broker, right? It's like, it's like, okay, do you need somebody who, because a lot of people feel like an advisor, because everybody can call themselves a financial advisor now, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, if you're talking about somebody who's just helping you pick stocks and pick investments for your portfolio, yeah, you probably don't need them if you're doing a good job with it. But I think there's a difference between talking about that and then talking about retirement planning, right? So at some point when you go to shift that accumulation phase, Jude, into the preservation and distribution phase, there's all these other animals, like our last episode, Roth conversions and what it does to Social Security and IRMA taxation. If this person's probably not even thinking about that, why would they? They've never dealt with it, So like there's all these other little animals that I think can really, that's when it starts to kind of bite you. I say often, you pull one lever in retirement from an income standpoint and it dominoes to 9 other things that you weren't expecting.
Well, let me give you 2 examples of recent people who have sought advice or consultation. I had one gentleman who did have an advisor, but it was more like what you were saying. When we looked at his portfolio, over $3 million that he had been working with this gentleman on for years.
Nice.
But he's getting ready to retire now within the next year. And he had attended one of our seminars on taxes and retirement. And he said to us, man, I learned so much in your seminar, things that I've never talked to my advisor about. At the end of the day, what we were able to show him was that he was getting investment advice, but he wasn't getting financial planning. And
doesn't mean the guy was doing a bad job, right? Sounds like he was doing a great job, but he never talked to him about never talked to him about taxation. Probably never talked to him about Social Security. Probably never talked to him about legacy planning, right?
Here's the kicker. Everything you said was correct. The fee that this other advisor was charging was exactly the same fee that we charged.
Okay.
But I said to the prospective client, it's like getting a McDonald's Happy Meal and you only got the bun. That's all you got. You didn't
although for the money now, Jude, you could go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger meal deal of some kind, or go to like Applebee's and it's almost the same thing. And at least you get to sit down and you have a nice drink, or something like that. So yeah, it's the value. That's a great point. So talking about DIYers, right? Vanguard, I believe, does a study, right? They put a study out every so often. They talk about the value that advisors bring. If you put numbers on it, I think it's around 3%. Something like that. But it's also the piece that I thought was interesting in there was the behavioral analysis, right?
Yes.
It's working with somebody who I can call you up and go, Jude, my daughter now decided she wants to have her wedding in Aruba. We weren't planning for that. How do we make that work? You're not going to get that from your investment guy.
Exactly. And I'll give you the second scenario. And we talked about this guy in the last episode, the gentleman that had $2 million in his 401k, getting ready to retire, wanted to do $500,000 in Roth conversions.
Okay.
Well, if you listen to the last episode, we actually saved him thousands of dollars by paring down that Roth conversion and showing him where he could hurt himself not only in stepping up to the next bracket, but also hurt himself with the Medicare premiums. But at the end of the day, I think what he told me was one of the biggest reasons why he decided to hire us was 2 things. One, he has a lot of great ideas, but nobody to bounce it off of.
Right.
And so he's his best and worst enemy.
Yep.
And being able to talk to us and have a holistic plan, one, he had a direction, but 2, when he came up with ideas, he could talk to us about it and make sure to flesh that out. But the second biggest thing for him was that he's been married for over 40 years, and his wife just had a pretty much standoff responsibility with the financial planning. She just trusted in him because this is his thing. He loves doing it.
Sure.
And he said to me, Jude, one of the things that I haven't told you is that I'm a survivor of cancer.
Okay.
And there's a possibility that it may come back.
Sure.
I don't want my wife looking for a financial advisor at the worst possible time and trying to find someone that I know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
for him, that was the other value that was really important.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of reasons why you may want financial advice.
And that's a great one, right? So let's say, the person that sent this in, and there's lots of people out there, you're doing a kick butt job. You're awesome. You're, just nailing it, right? But you get closer to retirement, does your spouse want you to spend all your time doing it, or do they want you to be retired with them so you can do things, right? Do you want to spend time with the grandkids? Do you want to be your own advisor in retirement? Do you have a succession plan in the event that you did pass away first so that your loved one is taken care of? Do they have any interest in doing it? Most of the time, the answer is no, right? Yep. So it's kind of like you need someone you can turn to. So outside of just the X's and O's, Jude, there's a lot of reasons why, again, you could be doing a great job building the wealth, but how to deal with it in retirement's a different animal. You could take all the X's and O's out and just go to the emotional side and say that alone to me is a lot of value, because it's somebody I know that my wife can call up and say, or vice versa. If she was to pass first, I can call up and say, hey, what do we do next? Where do we go now? That kind of thing.
And the last point I would bring up is that things are always changing. You talked about how much is your time worth? You as the prospective client, particularly if you're switching phases of life into retirement, or if you're working a ton of hours, and now how many more hours you want to spend on doing the research on holistic financial planning. Because just in the last 5 years, well, more than 5 years, we've gotten the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which changed so many things in the tax code. And then we got the Secure Act 1.0 and then the Secure Act 2.0. Those are thousands of pages for someone to read, digest, and understand how it could affect them and the right strategies that coincide with that. And that's our job. That's what we do.
Yeah. My RMD changed to, oh, wait, now it changed again. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
So it's always a little bit of something there. So again, nothing wrong with doing it yourself. We've over the last number of years, I think a lot of people have embraced the DIY movement for probably maybe the last decade, not just even finance, right? In lots of different arenas of life. I'm out in the boonies, so I'm forever saying, I got to just do it myself. I might as well just learn how to do this, because I try to hire somebody and it doesn't go the way you want it to. And I get all that, but you have to look at the whole big picture, especially when it comes to finance and the tax codes and the law changes. And there's just so much stuff that, constantly changes there. And then of course, that's before we even throw in the new, the changes we may be experiencing come 25 and 26, as President Trump continues to do more things. We'll see how all that plays out. So at the end of the day, I think it's worthwhile, right? Like, you had these people come in and they wanted to talk with you. They were like, hey, let's show me why, you're a good value, right? Show me where the value is. And I think that's the thing that people are looking for. I don't have a problem paying for a fee for something, Jude, if I'm getting value for it.
Absolutely. And I think where this question comes is a lot of people don't believe that they're getting the value for what they're paying. And what we try to do is show them holistically how we can bring the value in multiple areas of their financial situation.
Yeah.
And also sometimes we want to quantify that value by showing you how we're saving you, like in the example of the other gentleman doing Roth conversions, where we're saving you thousands of dollars above and beyond the fees that you're paying.
I'll end it with this, Jude. Technology is great, right? There's a lot of tools and apps out there now that can make this easier for DIYers, for sure. Robo-advisors, all that kind of stuff. But I maybe I'm old school. I don't know. But there's certain industries where I still kind of feel like I want to be able to talk to somebody and kind of get to know them and kind of have that relationship, right? Be able to kind of walk into the office or even do a Zoom and be like, Jude, oh man, you won't believe what happened. Here's what's going on. What do we do, right? What's the best way? Or we really want to get an RV and travel the country now. What's the best way to go about doing that? Where's the best way, a pile of money for us to access? That kind of stuff. I still feel like the human connection is a piece that, in the great debate about AI, the human connection is still very valuable, and I think in certain arenas.
110%. There's got to be a connection. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And we try to create that environment with our clients. In fact, we call our clients our client family, and our team members our team family. Yeah. So you can't subtract the human component.
Yeah. I mean, every time we get on before we start recording, we just jaw jack about just silly stuff, right? And so, and that's the same kind of thing that a lot of times people will do with their clients. They just come in, hey, how you doing? What's been going on? Tell me what's new, and then you kind of get into the nitty gritty. And I know that that's not for everybody, but I think there is still a component of that as well that you do miss out on if you're just doing everything yourself on your desk and little DIY components. So great question. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Thanks so much for dropping the question in. We certainly appreciate it. And I'm glad that it kind of paired out well with a conversation you had with a prospective client earlier this week as well. So good stuff. As always, if you guys need some help, reach out to Jude, get onto the calendar. We got links in the show descriptions below for you so you can get some time onto the calendar with he and his team. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube here on The Roth Guy. The little like button, a little thumbs up and notifications there so you catch new episodes when they come out. We'll see you next time here on The Roth Guy with Jude Wilson. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Always good to see you.
We'll see you next time.
Financial planning and advisory services are offered through Prosperity Capital Advisors, PCA, an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Ohio. Centrus Financial Strategies and PCA are separate, non-affiliated entities. PCA does not provide tax or legal advice. Insurance and tax services offered through Centrus Financial Strategies are not affiliated with PCA. Information received from this podcast should not be viewed as individual investment advice. Product discussions and illustrations are hypothetical in nature and will vary based on many factors, including but not limited to age, health, product, insurance carrier, and product design. You should consult the insurance carrier website and policy for detailed information. For information pertaining to the registration status of PCA, please contact the firm or refer to the Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. For additional information about PCA, including fees and services, send for our disclosure statement as set forth on Form ADV from PCA using the contact information herein. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money.